coming at you, you know, Heisman talk and 10-0 record. Can you rely on Taj at all? Does he talk to you about how to handle all of this?
I talked to him yesterday, actually, but we really didn't talk about football. Just catching up, you know, talking about family. You know, just for me, you know, with the Heisman talk and all the stuff that's going on, you know, I just worry about myself and my teammates. You know, I don't worry about, you know, all the outside stuff. That stuff's gonna take care of itself. It is what it is, and you know, just keep playing ball.
Are you a perfectionist?
Yeah, I am. I want to be perfect, but you know, it's kind of hard to do that, especially in this you know, field and this sport. But you know, I aim for perfection in everything I do.
The level of frustration when something that seemed to you to be simple, does it ever cloud your judgment or carry over from one play to the next?
It can be, but I don't allow myself to, you know, get frustrated and you know, on one play, you know, because it's multiple plays in the game, and so you know, I just snap it clear and move on about my business, and you know, once the game is over, you know, come in Sunday and Monday and face those mistakes and you know, try to correct them.
What would it mean to you to get invited to New York City in a few weeks?
It'll be an honor. You know, just another step into where I want to be, and you know, a goal that I want to achieve. And you know, if it happens, then you know, me and my family and coaching staff and teammates going to enjoy it and celebrate.
Not to ask a loaded question. Any Heisman winners in the past that you really looked up to besides Cam?
You know, previous years, Marcus, last year, a guy that I, you know, looked at and watched, especially when I was hurt. Jameis Winston, the way he won, and you know, handle, you know, all the adversity and all the negativity he had, and you know, RG3, Tim Tebow. Those are the guys that I really watched and had the chance to watch, you know, win the Heisman. So.
Are you more comfortable running the ball now than you were at the beginning of the season?
No, I was comfortable at the beginning of the season too. It just, you know, we had Wayne and a whole bunch of running backs at the time, and you know, they just wanted me to, you know, get in the field of the game. And you know, at the beginning of the year, you know, the first 2 games only played, you know, a half, so you know, it wasn't no need for me to run the ball. You know, it just depends on the situation of the game, and you know, I'm comfortable now like I was, you know, at the beginning of the year.
Seems like your speed though is you're like a little faster than you were at the beginning of the year. Have you noticed that maybe you are just a tad bit faster? That he's kind of reacting better than maybe it did at the beginning of the year?
Not really. I guess you could say that, but you know, I'm just having more opportunities of running the ball now, and depending on the game plan and what the coach staff want me to do, and you know, I'm just taking advantage of it, and you know, Coach Bassett and those guys down there just making sure we stay in shape and keeping our speed up, and you know, staying strong, and making sure that, you know, we still be able to, you know, compete at an elite level at this time of year.
Talk about the play where you broke out and you kind of lost the ball in your hand. The carpet got you. Talk about what happened there.
Really, I just, you know, got out, stepped on the guy, and once I did that, the ball hit my knee when it came up, and you know, I kind of fumbled the ball a little bit, and I didn't know if someone was behind me, so you know, I could have kept running, but I just fell to the ground and made sure I, you know, secured the ball instead of, you know, try to keep on running and losing the ball and, you know, having another turnover. So you know, I just, you know, secured the ball and just fell.
Coach Scott said that you asked to run the ball yourself on 3rd and 1 the other day, and that was the first time that you really went to him and asked that. Do you feel more eager to run the ball in short yardage situations now than in the past, or was that just a situational thing and you just took into account the point in the game, thought that was the right call?
You know, it was just, you know, heat of the moment, and you know, I just wanted the ball in my hands, and I know Wayne was down, and of course we have other running backs, but you know, at the time, you know, I just wanted the ball, and you know, that's the type of player I am. You know, when it comes to crunch time, you know, get the ball in my hands and let me make a decision. So you know, it was just one of those games that, you know, I wanted it, and they gave it to me.
How would you describe Wayne's personality off the field?
Off the field, he's quiet, he's a funny guy, laid back, and you know, just a great guy to be around. doesn't do anything, negative. He always, he's cool with everyone and always smiling.
What about on the field?
Yeah, I mean, he's the same way until the ball gets into him. Then, he's, Wayne train and just running over people. So, it's like a click, that goes on in his brain and his body. It just runs hard.
Deshaun and Sharon have played with a lot more confidence. They've both been a big asset to you. Just how important have they been for the offense, not having Mike Williams and having those two guys step up where they have?
I knew that those guys were going to step up. Just depending on the opportunity and the time being, and whenever that number is getting called, they make plays, and that's what they've been doing the past couple of weeks. And, it's great to have those guys and know that I can rely on them.
Has not having Mike forced you to spread the ball around a little bit more? Because you really, last few games, you really hit a lot of different targets.
No, not at all. If Mike was still playing, I'd still be spreading the ball around. Mike is just another guy that can contribute to this offense and another playmaker. So regardless of who's in and who's out, I'm still going to spread the ball, just find the open guy.
When you're asking for the ball like you did on Saturday, what do you say? Are you real animated about it, or just like, hey,
I just walk up to Coach Sweeney, Coach Scott, and just tell them, hey, give me the ball, I want it. And just be like, all right, we'll give it to you. So that's pretty much it. We have a great relationship and communicate well, and they know when I want the ball in my hands.
Of course, they also know that you can determine you're going to keep the ball too.
Right. It just depends on the play. Like I said before, it just depends on what they call and how we're feeling at the time and the situation of the game.
The team offensively, there are several guys that are nicked right now, and it's late in the season. Those kinds of things happen. What do you have to change at all in terms of how you assert yourself during a game, or what's your perspective on that?
We don't change anything, and I don't change anything. We still have the same mentality and preparation that we, did in the earlier of the season. And so, we just keep moving forward. And those guys know too. Whenever they get a time and a chance to get out there, they're going to perform. And if they can't perform at a high level, then they're not, selfish and try to be out there on the field and let someone else step up. So, nothing changed for us, and we just get those guys healthy and keep moving forward.
I asked Coach Scott earlier, other than your development and evolution this year, what would be the other best storyline of this offense this season for the first 10 games? He said the offensive line. I don't think there's any doubt of that. But your feeling about it?
I agree with him. Coming into the season, a lot of guys or a lot of media people thought that the offensive line was going to be the weak link of the team, and they've been the strong point of the team. And each and every week, we're pitting up months of yards. It starts up there with them, and they've been doing a great job. And one person go down, the next person step up. So we played a lot of guys on that line, and they became a unit, and just keep pushing forward and get better each week.
Yeah, and how it was assembled, just these 5 guys who are considered starters, pretty good story in itself, because none of them were starters a year ago. They all came from different directions to get there. That's kind of fascinating, I think.
Yeah, it's just the type of people we have on this team, and the type of guys they are up front. They're not very selfish, and they're very coachable, and they get along very well, and it just all starts with the love and the appreciation of one another. And those guys have been doing a great job, and they're gonna keep moving and keep getting better, and the sky's the limit.
Thanks.
Given the timing of Mike's injury, you'd gone through all of fall camp with him, and then was there an adjustment period for you that you had to get used to not having him on the field?
No, because during fall camp we had a lot of guys rolling in there, and the type of offense we have and the type of skills of receivers we have, one person don't play one position. You put Artavius Scott in the slot, you put Sean Peak at 9, Deion Kane at 2. Mike was playing slot some whenever he was healthy. So it just depends on the situation and the timing, and the adjustment wasn't bad. All the guys just went in and started rolling.